Today's Sunshine Note is titled, Wrong Way on a One-Way Street. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots so that they had difficulty driving, and the Egyptians said, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Exodus 14, verses 23 through 25. When I was 16 years old, I had about as much sense as a bag of hammers. Can you imagine how surprised I was that the government actually let me have a driver's license? By the time I was 17 years old, I had acquired 11 tickets. Most of those tickets were for speeding. However, I was soon to discover that the Department of Licensing has their limits on these things. The final straw came shortly after I turned 17. I owned a 1968 Pontiac GTO that just seemed to attract the attention of local law enforcement. My friends and I were cruising up and down a strip of Everett, Washington called Colby Avenue. It was a weekend cruising spot for teenagers at that time. The music was loud, another car was revving his engine, and I was off. I made a quick turn in the confusion of the moment and found myself going the wrong way on a one-way street. The first vehicle I met up with was, you guessed it, a police car. It turns out that it is illegal to drive the wrong way down a one-way street. I lost my license for a year. I've been a pretty responsible driver since then. It amazes me that Pharaoh was so filled with hate that he pursued the Israelites down what turned out to be a one-way street. After the plague, after the pillar of fire, his hatred and pride led him and his armies into a very bad place. Our passions and emotions can do that to us. That is why it is so important for us to live by our values and not by our emotions. We can make horrible decisions in the heat of the moment. It's so much wiser to step back from the heat, collect ourselves emotionally, and pray. Ask God to lead. Acting out of principle and our God-given value system will never lead us down a one-way street to destruction. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots so that they had difficulty driving, and the Egyptians said, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Exodus chapter 14, verses 23 through 25. May God bless you today.